As we just heard, the unemployment rate dropped to 8.1%. But what does that mean for the economy and the election and the issue of workers stopping to look for work? Joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. Well, Senator, your first blush reaction, you got to like the unemployment rate drop, but the fact that less people are looking for work's got to be discouraging.
Well, it's great to hear that the unemployment rate continues to drop. This is our 26th straight month of private sector job growth. That's more than 4 million jobs that have been created by the American economy since President Obama and Vice President Biden took over the reins. But we have to do better. In the Congress of the United States, we can and should do more work before the election in the rest of this calendar year to pass bipartisan bills that will help strengthen job growth. I know President Obama wants stronger job growth, so do I. So I believe do all of us in Congress. But there's things we can and should take up and pass, like the transportation bill that came out of the Senate with a strong bipartisan vote and now sits over in the House, even as we are coming closer and closer to the summer construction season for improvements to our highways and bridges, ports and tunnels.
Do you think that, I mean, given that the one sector of the economy other than government workers, which has been a consistently downward trajectory and a little bit of a drag on the unemployment rate, transportation sector was a negative, lost jobs.
That's right.
Do you think there'll be an impetus at all to get the House and Senate to somehow come together and get something passed?
I really hope so, Chuck, because, frankly, the manufacturing jobs news is very positive. I'm someone who's long been an advocate of a stronger, more competitive manufacturing sector in the United States, and I do think we're making good progress in that direction. But the bill that came out of the Senate, the 2-year, $109 billion transportation bill, is something that's been endorsed by the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and the AFL-CIO. It managed to get out of the Senate with very strong bipartisan support, and it's languishing over in the House. It's my real hope that when we get back to work this month, the House will take it up and will pass it so that states and municipalities and counties all over the country can get folks to work this summer. The projected estimate was that that bill, if passed, would save or create up to 3 million jobs. And as you mentioned, Chuck, construction has been particularly hard hit. And these are investments that would help make our country competitive for the long run as well.
I want to switch subjects here to China and the apparent deal now that the Chinese government has agreed to allow Chen Guangcheng to study abroad, and that the U.S. now will expedite a visa for him. Do you feel as if everything had been rushed, though, in the diplomatic discussions between our embassy and the Chinese government in his handling this week, simply because of the fact that Secretaries Clinton and Geithner were heading to the country?
Well, I think the circumstances around this activist, Chen Guangcheng, ending up at the U.S. Embassy and now, hopefully, having a negotiated path towards coming to the United States are very complex and quite difficult. I have to take the Secretary of State's representation that what they were doing in the embassy, which I'll remind you is an inspiring moment. This is a moment where a Chinese activist who's been speaking out for human rights in his own country seeks refuge in the United States Embassy. What the Secretary and others on behalf of the administration have said is that he very strongly wanted to stay in China. And so they did their best under tough circumstances to continue to put human rights at the top of their agenda, even though Secretary Geithner and Secretary Clinton have lots of other issues to deal with, security and trade and currency. Human rights must always be at the top of our agenda in our working relationship with other countries around the world. So they negotiated what they thought was the best path forward. Ultimately, the last few days have been very disappointing. The Chinese apparently did not keep their commitments, and so I'm pleased if the ultimate outcome is going to be that Chen and his family will be able to come to study and to safety in the United States.
But are you concerned that things got rushed simply because Clinton and Geithner were headed there?
Well, I can't speak to that. The one trip I made to Pakistan and Afghanistan was a great window into just how hard these circumstances can be. I landed in Islamabad in Pakistan with 3 other senators when it was literally the week that an American had been taken hostage by some local extremists in a province in Pakistan, and we had a brand new ambassador, and I got to witness very difficult, very hurried negotiations to try and secure secure the freedom of Ray Davis, someone who had worked with the United States government. So I have some little window into just how difficult these negotiations must have been with the Chinese. And I believe that Secretary Clinton has done a good job, Ambassador Locke has done a good job of standing up for human rights throughout our relationship with China, and I support their efforts to ensure that Chen comes to safety in the United States.
All right. Senator Chris Coons, Democrat from Delaware. I got to leave it there.